Before the video starts, I wanted to go ahead and jump in real quick and say that I'm fully aware that this topic is more of a iffy discussion, and if anybody disagrees or agrees or has any thoughts on the topic at all, I'm completely open to discussion and criticism, and I really hope that you guys do engage in some of that discussion down in the comments, and yeah, because I will be there and I will respond. Other than that, like, I had some fun matches with for recording this video. I don't really know what else to say. I just feel like maybe you guys should check out my most recent videos. Just a thought, but feel free to. I'm gonna try and have some more like actual just like gameplay come out soon, because I don't want to just have topic discussions and that'd be it. I feel like it's entertaining to have some gameplay in there just for the sake of having gameplay. Obviously I'll have like themed videos still, but you know, whatever. Anyways, I've rambled on long enough. I will go ahead and let the video start. I hope you guys enjoy, and thanks for watching.
Is that all you have?
A couple of years ago, back around the time Wesker was released to Dead by Daylight, I had been at an all-time high of playing the game. I had accumulated over 2,000 hours on Xbox, and ultimately, I enjoyed the game a lot. But it was getting around that time that I started not to. I started to get frustrated with the game more easily. It got more stale to me. And something that didn't help with that is how regularly I got some of the killers in my games. One of the characters I got most that I went against was Huntress. And again, Wesker, because at the time he was the newest killer and everybody played him because of how well designed he was. Only recently had I gotten back into Dead by Daylight on my new PC, and I've been enjoying it a lot more, but I did notice with the release of Springtrap from Five Nights at Freddy's that a lot of people were playing him. Part of the reason that people play Springtrap so much is that he is a very well designed killer, and he is arguably quite fun. One thing I find myself running into though, seeing as the new killer is played pretty often, is that I'm running into the same issue I had years ago with Wesker and Huntress, where I find myself playing against the same killer again and it gets frustrating because of the lack of variety. That frustration led to the question that I asked myself, that is, should killers be released mediocre? I think the answer to the question is very simple. I think it's a very obvious no. But at the same time, there is part of me that questions why that was even a question in the first place. There has to be some specific reason that calls for me to even have doubt about it. And it comes from not a design standpoint, but more so a question of variety and whether or not a killer is overplayed. I might be one of many who experienced quitting Dead by Daylight for a while because of the fact that it got too repetitive, and I feel like one issue that causes that is a killer that is well designed. And it's odd to say that that's an issue, because you should hope that every killer is well designed and fun to play to the point where people want to play them. Unfortunately though, we run into an issue of however, of a killer being played too regularly. And ultimately, it gets frustrating. So I wondered to myself, should a killer be designed in a way that initially starts off relatively weak? And I knew that that was even more stupid than my initial question. So I wondered if there is an in-between that should be met, where a killer isn't too powerful, but not too underpowered to the point where they're just mediocre. Obviously, looking back on this now and seeing everything, it's very easy to say no, because why would you want a killer that's not good, just not good at all? Why would you want a killer that is mediocre when you can strive for one that's good in general, and it's hard to say why from a development standpoint, but from a player-based standpoint, it makes sense more than I think I give myself enough credit for. It's hard to put into perspective the effect that a overplayed killer can have. If somebody consistently sees the same killer for however many games out of 10, let's say half of the games you play, every 5 out of 10 you play, you go against a Wesker, for instance, and you continuously go against the same killer, eventually the game's just going to feel the same. It's going to start to feel more so frustrating because of the fact that you're going against the same killer and there's no variety in what you're getting. That's why, to me, and I feel to a lot of other people who played the game consistently, it's nice to see variety. It's nice to see those killers you don't see every now and then. And with killers that are well designed, especially around the time where release dates happen, it's really hard to see any other killer than what's released. And if what's released is a very well designed killer, it's going to stay that way. On the other hand, though, if you go the other route and you pursue a underpowered killer, or even then just a buggy killer in general, if you're unlucky, or just a buggy killer in general if the developing team doesn't do very well, then you have the opposite, where a killer is so frustrating or problematic that people quit anyways. So either way, people will maybe quit. And that's what got me to the point where should killers be released mediocre? And again, I want to completely reiterate that I mean that every killer should be designed well enough. But at the same time, it's interesting that there was even a doubt in my mind to have this question cross my mind. In attempts to get background footage for this video, I played a game or two of Wesker and Springtrap, people I mentioned in the video. When I was playing as Wesker, I found myself in a mid-witch game. And during that mid-witch game, I did well enough as Wesker to the point where people who would have continuously tried just started to give up halfway through. It's not even that they were in a very rough situation. I mean, obviously I was doing well and they weren't, but at the same time, it was enough for them to give up at that point instead of continuing to try to the end. And I'm not saying that that is specifically evidence, but at the same time, if I had been playing another killer, because I've had situations like that where I'm in very similar situations, but just a different killer, and people continue to try as more niche killers, because I like to play a variety of killers. I find myself playing Demo Warden, which I don't see often. I find myself playing Trapper, which I don't see often. I play Deathslinger every now and then. I play a lot of killers. But the one time I play Wesker, people give up more. It even happened towards the start of my game on the game afterwards, where as soon as I ran into people, they started being more friendly in a way, as if they weren't taking the match serious anymore because of the fact that I'm playing Wesker. Maybe they're tired of it. And that kind of thing is just to the point where how close are these people to having one bad game that makes them stop playing? You never know, especially because these killers are so common. Like, the amount of Weskers I've gone against in my career is probably more than anybody else. Again, I'm trying so hard to put into perspective how rough this is, but it's interesting. Let me do a comparison real quick. When I played my Wesker games, I had those people who maybe tried not so hard and gave up halfway through or whatever may happen. And the other way, let's say, I take for instance my Springtrap games. Both of my Springtrap games, I played against very good teams that almost made it out, except they made silly mistakes or they played a little too altruistically and risky and they were playing for more fun, but they were still trying. And they didn't give up, I don't think. And it's weird because the killer that I would associate with having less players consistently and more variety, because I consider Wesker to be more played. people see Wesker more, I feel, even now. I feel that Springtrap had its popularity, but at the same time, it's dying down a little bit more, and people will still continue to play, but not as much. So I feel like the more underplayed killer had more of a success rate of continuous matches that people try and continue to try and don't give up at any point. So it's interesting to see that in my comparison, because I only played 2 games each. I was doing it for background footage, and I was interestingly enough able to capture the point in where people give up as Wesker. And I don't think it's because I'm doing well as Wesker, because I don't really play Wesker well. I genuinely think it's because people just really don't want to play against these killers. And it's interesting to think that, because ultimately, like, if you have an issue like this where it's somebody's overplayed, you will have people stop. But at the same time, if I go and play somebody like Twins, or even like Twins is so problematic that people might quit anyways. It's not that I'm playing a powerful killer, because Wesker is middle of the road, I feel. He's a relatively powerful killer, but he's not top tier. And you have that issue. But then if I go to the complete bottom of the barrel and I play Twins or Skull Merchant, like problematic or buggy, I will have people not want to play. And it only requires so many games for people to just not want to play anymore. So that's why I really was wondering if killers should be designed mediocre, because if you have them designed middle of the road, then there is nothing for anybody to complain about, except maybe people complaining that they are middle of the road. Which I can think all complaints are very valid. Because I think if you are upset that somebody's overplayed, that's valid. I think that if you complain that something is buggy or problematic, I think that's also valid. If you have an issue with them being mediocre, that's valid. It's just down to whether or not a killer ends up on which side or in the middle. And I was wondering if the middle is just the safest bet. But at the same time, obviously not. We need to strive for killers to be good. We need to strive for every killer design to be good, and for it to be unproblematic and as top tier as it can be, to the point where it's not oppressive, obviously. We need balance. We just need them not to be mediocre. It's just really difficult to put into perspective what should be done. But I just kind of wanted to rant about like a question that I asked myself, and I don't really know what else to say. It's not much of a longer video, which I think is fine. So if you guys enjoyed, feel free to let me know if you have anything you disagree about or agree about, or anything to discuss in general. Go ahead and leave it in the comments, and check out my last videos if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next one, ideally. And I am going to go now. Bye.